A thought I had before I begin: no one that I have ever heard of, no country, no division of a country has ever fought a war for dependence. I'd love to stand corrected. My name is Dexter Clark. I am the Vice Chairman of the Alaskan Independence Party in the Northern region, which is slightly bigger than Texas all by itself.
Yeah.
We like to joke that if you guys don't behave yourself, we'll make 2 states of Alaska the third largest. If you were to interpose Alaska on that map of the United States, it would cover both the northern and southern borders and hang over and nearly reach both coasts. Okay, my wife, Lynette, will speak a little bit, I'm thinking, and I are coal miners. We've made our living digging it out of the earth for over 20 years, and we're near Fairbanks, Alaska, which is just about the geographical center of the state. The Alaskan Independence Party was established by Joe and Doris Vogler and officially recognized as a political party by the state of Alaska, ruled 25 years ago. Within 10 years of that recognition, the party nominated the governor and the lieutenant governor, and they were elected. Before their term was over, Mrs. Vogler had passed away, and Mr. Vogler was assassinated. After the tragedy of losing our leader, almost all the political observers in Alaska said, that's the end of the AIP. We don't have to worry about them anymore. And I'll come back to that in a bit. But the basic argument of the Alaskan Independence Party has always been, and the number one plank in our platform, is the question of our vote to become a state. The most glaring disparity in that vote was the definition of an eligible voter. Among those qualified to cast a ballot were 41,000 American soldiers and their 36,000 dependents. Now, to the native population of Alaska, to me, these were occupation troops. And they were made eligible, in fact, encouraged to vote. There were educational meetings held on the military bases. I can't imagine them telling anyone that anything with the statehood would be very good for the military. In fact, they still have 6, 7 big bases and numerous smaller holdings in the state. Statehood otherwise would be good for the military. Now, can you imagine the international uproar if the American troops had all went and got their purple fingers in Iraq? That would have been, that's not an election. That's imposing your rules. Another thing that research revealed had to do with the United Nations. President Truman signed the UN Charter, making it the law of the land whether you like it or not. And among their provisions, they had a provision or a committee that deals with what they call a non-self-governing territory, which Guam and Puerto Rico to this day are still reported by the United States, the Virgin Islands, another one, reported to American Samoa. They report every year to this committee that these are our territories that are not governing themselves. And the committee that came up with the rules of how you would change that relationship imposed certain restrictions. And among those was that when a vote was held, there should be more than one choice on the ballot. Specifically, they say 3 of the 4 following choices should be on that ballot. And that is to remain the territory, just keep your relationship the same, to become a commonwealth, which has all of its own advantages and disadvantages, to become a state, or to become an independent nation. When the ballot appeared before Alaskans, it had statehood, yes or no. And under the Voters' Rights Act at that time, you had to be able to read and write English to vote, which pretty much took care of any of the native population having any vote in the election whatsoever. Now, in a letter that Joe received, Joe Vogler, Joe to me and my wife, Mr. Vogler had finally gotten a sponsor before this committee that's in charge of the non-self-governing territories, to take a look at those discrepancies. Of course, that door was closed with his death. That was a personal letter to him. We've seen a copy of it, and that was dated, like I say, within the week of his death. And where's the AIP at now?
Tell them who the sponsor was.
No. The AIP now has 13,689 registered voters as members. That's not our count, that's the state of Alaska. They count them for us. We don't have to keep track of them. That's a little more than 300 up from last year's conference. Our current governor, who I mentioned the last conference, one we were hoping would get elected, Sarah Palin, did get elected. There's a joke, she's a pretty good looking gal. There's a joke goes around that we are the coldest state with the hottest governor. And there's a lot of talk about her moving up. She was an AIP member before she got the job as the mayor of a small town. That was a nonpartisan job. But to get along, to go along, she eventually joined the Republican Party, where she had all kinds of problems with their ethics. And well, I won't go into that. So she also had about an 80% approval rating, and is pretty well sympathetic because of her former membership. Both of our senators to the American Congress are under investigation, and there's a pretty good story going around. One's under a sealed indictment, and this is the result of the oil money. There's bribery and fraud charges, and Oil Bunny is buying what they want in Alaska. The royalty share in Alaska of oil, I don't know if any of the rest of you have the numbers before you, what your own state gets, like Texas and Alaska. The royalty share is 12.5%. I maintain a sharecropper did better than that. The people of Alaska, and from what I've already heard in this room of several other areas, are fed up. It's enough. And if there was ever a time that is ripe for change, this is it. Now, in our own situation, we've discussed several options. Do we try to get our case into the International Court of Justice or to the World Court? Several of the Native Alaskan organizations are taking that route independent of us. They want to do it on their terms. They haven't realized, in my mind, what the potential of their own political party, which there's one of the pitfalls of an organized political party. You don't have any control over who joins that party. They put the X next to it on the registration form, and if they go into the primary and win that primary, they're your candidate, like it or not. In fact, I think Ron Paul has kind of proven that. He's a dyed-in-the-wool libertarian, if you know him. He came to Alaska and spoke as a libertarian, and he put the Republican label on to get elected. That's all there is to it. And any one of your organizations should be using that same tactic. You should infiltrate. I know that the Christian Exodus is in favor of it. The Free State Movement is in favor of it. I don't know if they even care which party it is. Whichever party you see in that area you can get something done, get into that political party, even though it does have its problems. Right now, that is one of the only avenues. And you get a few people on a city council or a county board, you can have some effect. I'm trying to digress.